In the last video, I told you that mass is a function of energy, or essentially, that matter and energy are different versions of the same thing. And I think that wave-particle duality will help you to see this more clearly. This particular experiment that I'm going to tell you about has really thrown a wrench into the entire basis of our physical understanding of the world. It blows the whole thing apart. So you need some background. The deal with measuring light energy, or electromagnetic waves, is that depending on how and what you are measuring, light appears to be a tiny little predictable packet of energy called a photon, or it appears to be a wave of energy that moves at the speed of light throughout the universe and in all directions. It's weird because the nature of a wave is that it's hard to know where it begins or ends. Think of the ocean, and someone says, "Hey, look at the beginning of that wave." Where is the beginning? Out in the sea somewhere? Further down the shoreline? Where? So a wave is kinda everywhere. But a measurable packet, like a photon, is in a position, which is a property of matter, not energy. Imagine 10 toy ships are floating on the waves. You could pinpoint these and say, there is one ship, right there exactly in this moment. That's an example of measuring a photon. So light is both a wave and a particle. It acts like energy and matter. Well, it gets even stranger because electrons, a tiny piece that forms the atom, or matter, have some very peculiar behaviors as well. All matter has two very basic things that define it, and they can always be measured: the position and the speed, or lack of. So, some really smart scientists designed a complicated experiment that fired these electrons at two slits in a wall. A tiny wall, of course. And they used some kind of photographic paper so they could see the little splat of the electron as it collided with the wall behind the slits. They expected, as you might also, that there would be tons of splats exactly behind each opening. But that's not what happened at all. Instead, a wave pattern appeared. You know, think of acoustics or water waves. Some wave crests overlap and form higher peaks, and some wave troughs overlap and form very weak, short peaks. So if electrons behave like a wave, then their exact position can never be known, and that is a property of energy. Let me be frank. The scientists were like, what the fuck? The electron is a thing like a tennis ball, and it should act like a tennis ball, not like a wave. So they decided, let's set up a sensor to track the position of the electron, like a biologist might track an otter, and we'll see which opening they go through, and maybe we can figure out what's going on here and why this wave pattern is forming. When they did that, in some bizarro, out-of-this-world twist, the electrons behaved like the tennis ball and made a splat behind each opening. They behaved like they were supposed to behave in the first place. So, both versions of this experiment have been repeated many times with the same results, and the conclusion is that the electron is both a particle and a wave. And it is completely baffling to us as to how or why the electron can transform itself from a particle to a wave depending on the scientist's observation. From this experiment, philosophers have developed a whole new idea that we can control or change the outcome of what our atoms are doing, and thus our entire life. You see, since the scientists were able to choose what to measure, it seems they controlled the behavior of the electron, and therefore chose whether the electron was a wave or a particle. The whole wave-particle duality is some freaky shit, even to the scientists. They don't know what the heck is going on. But keep in mind that it's quite possible that there is way more to this story with a possible logical explanation, but we do not yet have the tools required to measure things properly, and thus remain completely baffled about the nature of the entire universe. So after these 3 videos full of overwhelming evidence in favor of a creator, I will conclude with this thought. Does any of this scientific evidence matter? Really? If you feel God inside, if you can see Him in the butterflies and the trees, and most importantly, in yourself and in others, then do you really need scientific proof? I don't think you do. Your reality doesn't need scientific evidence.